So, last night at an investigation, a location that I have been to one time before, something interesting happened, and it really got me thinking about owls. Owls in particular. Here lately, I have been blessed with an owl moving into one of the trees in my backyard, and it's super exciting. It's like clockwork. Every night at 5 o'clock, that owl is out there just hooting away, and it's so melodic, and I honestly enjoy it. But I've had a few other encounters with owls and superstition, so that's kind of what we're diving into, the different lores behind what an owl coming into your life can symbolize. So one of the most prominent things, and why last night's investigation got me thinking about owls to begin with, because I honestly hadn't correlated the owl moving into my backyard as that signifying something great or grand or mysterious. No, I just kind of admired the fact that I now have an owl living in my backyard, and that's kind of cool. But while we were at this location, and why I bring up that I've been there one time before, is it was kind of a scary location that we went to. This is Carr High School. It is the oldest school still standing in Indiana. It predates the Civil War. There's so much history to this place. But during the first investigation, we got spooked out. So we ran. As we were leaving and we were driving down these country, twisty, windy roads at night, there was an owl that was just like chilling in the middle of the road. And at the time, we had just realized that we left some equipment behind. We left the voice recorder. It was still rolling in the cemetery that's attached to Carr High School. So we were contemplating, do we find somewhere to stop and turn around so we can go back and get it? And in that moment, there was an owl just chilling in the middle of the road. Like, what's up? What are you going to do? And like, it stayed there for a minute. So we were like, okay, we're going to take this as some sign telling us, no, don't stop, and just keep going. So that's the sign that we took it as. So we kept going. But now last night was the second time that I've been to Carr High School. And while we were out there, we got visited by this beautiful owl who swooped down super close to where we were and just kind of danced around the sky for a little bit, and it was so pretty to see. But while we were walking around the cemetery, there was a little bit of foreshadowing to owl activity, because I definitely found some owl droplings and was like, oh cool, there's an owl that's nearby. And then we ended up seeing that owl. So it is kind of interesting to me that at the same location, there was two different instances of an owl kind of popping up and making its presence known. And the group that I was with was starting to talk about what owls symbolize. And one person was like, I believe that owls symbolize something really good. And another person was like, I've read somewhere that owls symbolize something bad. So I want to dive into that. If we want to go into like a little bit of Greek mythology, when I say owl, you might think of the goddess Athena, because owls symbolize knowledge, wisdom, power, and that's really what Athena stood for. Knowledge, wisdom, power, which led to strategy, and later in her goddess career, she became the goddess of war. Now, if we want to dive into some Native American folklore, then owls are not such a good omen. It's definitely to have an owl sighting, close encounter, is definitely something that should be taken seriously, possibly as an omen of death. If we go a little bit back towards the Greek side of things, in ancient Rome, owls were also a symbol of death and a bad omen. So this is definitely across an ocean between the Native Americans and the ancient Rome, where they were sharing a similar same belief. But also in that area is where we get the story of Athena and how owls symbolize knowledge and cunning and strategy. That's just a little interesting. Do these two actually correlate? Is an owl having the knowledge, the strategy, does that kind of fall into owls being an omen of death and bad tidings? They would have the knowledge of this, right? But there's another one. For an owl encounter specifically at night, this is said to be more of an omen of a transition that is coming into your life. Which, that's a little bit more uplifting than death and destruction, right? Transitions are good. They can be scary, of course, but then that's also the death of a past. So are we seeing this owls are an omen of death and destruction? And are we just misinterpreting that as, well, that could only be negative, that could only be bad? But what if it's the death of your past, the death of something that is holding you back, the end of something that has been holding you back from being able to transition into the beautiful and successful person that you were meant to be? So just a few beliefs with superstitions behind owls that I find fascinating and interesting, and how this kind of merges and mixes with the location that we were at. I would say more of a bad omen for that. The entire time, both investigations that were done at CAR, there is very much this pressure, this feeling that you are not necessarily welcome. Not that you're, being threatened, but just that your presence there is not welcome. But both instances, it has been an all-female group that has went and investigated this place. And the building itself has a lot of ties with Masons. So to me, that's interesting. It could be more or less that we are females who are invading a space that is meant to be male sacred, and that could be why we're feeling such hostility or badness. But the fact that there is an owl that has been a part of CAR's investigation both times is just a little strange. Fun to think about. Could mean absolutely nothing, but it's still fun to think about. So thank you so much for listening to me ramble about owls in CAR High School and just trying to merge these two fun little things together. Until next week, stay creepy. I love you.